I'm Amanda. Today we're going to be making pumpkins, and this can really be a pretty advanced project, or this one has a lid, or it can be pretty simple. So something for everyone, and pumpkins are my favorite. You can also do other types of fruits and vegetables and whatnot. So what you're going to want is your bag of clay. Some of the basic tools that I brought with this are the tongue depressor, kind of like a toothpick thing. I don't know, this is like a flat toothpick, I'm not really sure. And then from your kitchen, I would grab a knife. If you have a little credit card ID hanging around, like that might be helpful for some of it, but it's not necessary. And then I always like to have a little water on hand. Okay, so we're gonna start off really easy. So you're just gonna take your ball out of your bag, and this can be your pumpkin. Grab a little bit off the side so you have some for a stem or a leaf or whatever you like, and then we'll have to like make this back into a ball. And then you can literally just take your tongue depressor or a pencil and just kind of put lines on it like a pumpkin. And it's already starting to look like a pumpkin. You can just like drag your finger in between each of the lines. It's real soft. And that's basically it. So for some of you who are familiar to clay, it would be like, okay, but you can't fire that, it's super thick. This is correct. It would possibly explode in the kiln, probably explode in the kiln. So if you have, you know, if you guys have made this, maybe parents can help. But what you want to do is like turn it over, and we're gonna scoop some out of here. So I would suggest a regular spoon, because the plastic spoon is not the best ever. And you get little bonus clay when you do this too. And so this is, I scooped out some, but it's still pretty thick, like that thick. So we still want to get in there, scoop some out. You can try with the tongue depressor too. But yeah, sometimes this is like a little bit of the harder part for the ones with the little hands or short attention spans. But it doesn't have to be anything fantastic. This is pretty good, and you just want it to like imagine your thumb. You don't want it to be any thicker than your thumb. And if you need to, you can always sit here and just like kind of poke holes in there, just to make sure that if it explodes, it just goes down. Okay, so there's your pumpkin. We have all these little goobers of clay. So you can put those together, and then just to make a stem, you can just kind of roll it, kind of smush it on each side. And then you can do the same thing with the tongue depressor, is just kind of put little lines in it. And if you push too hard, it might go all the way through, but that's okay. You might even want like a shorter stem. So you can just put lines in it. It's gonna look a little more real, or really whatever you want. And then we're gonna take this, and it might look like it's stuck, like it's kind of like stuck on there right now, but I can pull it off pretty easily, and as soon as it's dry, it's gonna pull off like real easily. So you just want to take your water, and you can kind of like either dip it in there or just kind of get this wet. And then what we want to do is, you can use anything for this, is we want to make marks, we want to score it. So we're using the water to make slip, and then this is going to score. Basically, you're making this like a zipper. And so you put it on, and then you want to push pretty hard. And then you can kind of get in and kind of push it down, but that is your simple, basic pumpkin. And then you can still decorate it, and we'll put that aside. Hi, so I'm gonna show you guys how to make a flat pumpkin. You have your ball from your bag, and you can just start smashing it down. Then when it gets a little more like hamburger shape, maybe a big hamburger. Yeah, that's getting better. Then you can start patting it into a tortilla. So just kind of clapping between your hands and rotating it. Oops. Alright, so that's pretty good. You want it to be about the thickness of maybe a cutting board, or I don't know, we could measure this. It's probably about 1/2 inch thick. And then we can put that down. So if you're happy with your circle, you can smooth it out. If you would prefer to have a perfect circle, you can look around your house, dig through your recycle and try to find something that's a good circle. So like this one might be like a little small. We could probably get, this is a random tin that I have. Yeah, so that's a little bit bigger. So what we can do is take this guy and put some water around the rim so it doesn't stick. And then you're just going to take it and push. And it's going to kind of make some farting noises, but that's okay. Keep going. Then you can take this part off. You have a nice circle for something. And then this guy should just be able to kind of pop him out. Coming out now. There it is. So now you have a perfect circle for your pumpkin face. Then you can smooth the edges. What I like to do, I'm still not like a huge fan of the perfect circle pumpkin because I just like vegetables looking all weird and stuff. So you can just kind of bring your fingers up here and then just kind of start squishing it, and then this is going to make your stem right here. Just kind of push it in right there. And so it might start sticking to the table, so we want to take some wax paper and just put it down so that you don't have too much of a problem getting it back out. So I'm just going to squish this a little more, kind of make that. You don't want this to be too thin up here because the stems can break off really easily. And you can kind of look at the back and see, take this part off. You can clean this up a little more too later. And then I'm going to make mine a little bit bigger. Yeah, there we go. Alright, so I got my stem. Got my pumpkin, and then you can just pick, you can draw on your own. I only basically know how to do a triangle pumpkin. These are from Mary of Craft Buds, so thanks Mary. I'm just gonna go with your classic triangle shape, and you can take a pen and just trace it onto your pumpkin. Okay, So there's the eyes. And then I'm also a fan of the basic pumpkin mouth. So put that on there. And trace. Okay, so it's a little funny, but then you can see, you can take like either your pen or go to your chopstick, and you can kind of get in here now that you have the lines on here, and you can sort of draw it in a little more deeply. You're just tracing that line. That came from the paper. Got this guy. And then you can push these down, or you can just leave it, and this pumpkin could totally be done. What he doesn't have is a nose, so let me show you guys how I like to make ridiculous noses. So take your little extra clay that you have, and you can break off a piece, and then I'm just going to make that into a ball. Okay, so then what I like to do is hold it, let's see, hold it, and then you're going to start just kind of squeezing one side. You're going to leave this part fat, and then just kind of pinch this side so it gets a little pointy. You can kind of elongate it. So now that's what your nose is looking like, kind of like a teardrop. And that's going to be the bridge of your nose. And so if we put him here, you can just kind of squish down. And then if you want to really go crazy, you can take it and kind of smooth the sides. And then my favorite part, which is to just hold it like this with your fingers and then stick your fingers up the nose. And then now you have some funny nostrils. And then to get this guy attached, you just want to take it and you can put a little water on the back. You can use your sponge if you want. And this is going to basically be sticking like glue. Put a little water there. You can take this and score it. It just helps it stick kind of like Velcro or a zipper. And then we're going to put it on. And there is your pumpkin. And if you want, you can totally add more pieces to it as well. You can make lines on the pumpkin if you like. You guys can really kind of have fun with this. But here's your basic like 2D flat pumpkin shape. Hi guys, so here are your basic tools and what you need for making a pumpkin. This is going to be the little pumpkin jar, or maybe just a bigger version of a Pinch Pot 3D pumpkin. And this one's dry, that's why the color looks a little different. There it is. But I'll show you how we can decorate them. Alright, so if you've had I always like saving a little. You can use some for the stem, or maybe you want to make some 3D elements on there. So you can just take your popsicle stick and just kind of cut a bit off. Maybe like, I don't know, about the size of like a small egg, or a, I don't know, sports golf ball maybe a little bit bigger than a golf ball. But just put that in your bag so it doesn't dry out. All right, and then what you're gonna do is we're gonna make this back into a circle. And so basically, this is gonna be 2 pinch pots, and we're gonna put them together. And pinch pot is usually like the first project you'll do in like a ceramics class, like before you can go on the wheel or anything like that. And I think pinch pots are like completely underrated. But for this guy, so we're gonna go ahead and we can chop him like in half, because we're gonna want like 2 sides. So there's a couple different ways to do this. You can use your elbow, which is kind of fun. You just kind of push in and that'll get it started. And then, so if you look at this guy, I have like a little dent in there, but this part is still very, very thick. So that's what we want to work on, is like pushing that in. And so you can do the same thing with your elbow, just kind of moving it around. You're sort of pressing your elbow against your hand, against your palm. And this is just kind of making it bigger. In a perfect world, you want this to be like even all the way around. So it's a little bit thicker there, a little bit thinner here, but we're gonna make a pretty thick pinch pot. But the problem with this one is it's already starting to like get wide, so we want to kind of bring it back in. And you can just kind of fold it over and smooth it back into itself. I like to make sure this edge is strong. And so I can see there's definitely still some in there, so I'm just gonna pinch a little, make it a little bigger. Okay, so that's one side of it. Getting a little bit wider again, but we can fix that later. All right, so put that upside down. And then you have this guy, and I'll show you how I just make like a regular pinch pot. So you want to push down almost so you can feel like your fingertips, because we want to get this part, the bottom, that's what you want to stretch out first. So all of this is still really thick, but down here it's kind of thin. And so then we're just gonna kind of push it down, smooth out the sides. You're just trying to now get that rest of that clay like come up. It's getting a little wide again, so you can just put it in your palm and kind of fold it over. And then it doesn't have to be perfect, because this is not where the jar is going to open. We're just making a closed form, like hollow ball. So you can put both sides together and just kind of see if they're about the same. And you can work on that a little more, but you want a pretty nice thick rim here. Okay, so then we have our 2 halves, and what we're gonna do is put these guys together. So to do that, we're gonna take your favorite tool. Maybe if you have a fork, it's really good for this, but you just wanna make a bunch of score marks, and you can make them pretty deep. We're trying to make this like a zipper. Yeah, so they're pretty deep in there. Oop, I don't want to be deep. So we got our 2 halves, and then we're just gonna take some water and put it all up in here. Okay, then put them together. And what you want it to do is like trap a little bit of air. So it's not really together, but it's not like falling in on itself. And then I'll just kind of start slowly tapping the 2 sides together. Okay, and the line should basically disappear. Now you can kind of tap this, depending on like what kind of pumpkin you want. If you want like more of a squatty pumpkin, make it that shape. If you want to make a fruit, like a pear, you can kind of start shaping it, or like a big avocado. Shaping it like that, so whatever kind of pumpkin shape you want. And then you have that. And then this guy is great for making lines. You can make them pretty deep because again, it's pretty thick. And the air wants to go somewhere. That's why it's trying to like push out. And then I'll just take it and run my finger, trying to erase that line. Alright, so that's looking more like a pumpkin. Then you can do this for a while, like smooth this out and kind of detail the shape. And then you're just going to have to decide where you want to cut it open. And if you don't want to make a jar, you don't have to make a jar. We can just like put like a little hole in there so that it doesn't explode in the kiln, and you can stick a stem on top and call it a day. Or you could carve out a jack-o'-lantern from here. There's a lot of things you could do. Alright, so it's kind of starting to fold in on itself, so I'm just going to take something and poke a hole in it. So now it's not fighting against me so much. And if it starts collapsing, you can just blow into it. Oh, you can't see that. How do you do that? Okay, so here's my pumpkin so far. like a hole in the bottom, and it started to cave in a little bit, which you can leave, but probably when I open it up, I'll kind of like push that out from the inside. So then you can make a stem and just get like a little ball of clay, kind of roll it. And stretch it out. And then what I like to do is you can take it and cut it. So use your like popsicle stick or your knife, and you're just gonna kind of like cut little pieces off. And then I'll like run my finger in the middle of each one. And you might make a couple stems and see which one you like better, which one fits your pumpkin. Yeah, so that's looking okay. I like them when they're a little more pointy, so you can just take a little water and just kind of squeeze the top of it. Yeah, so we might as well just go ahead and put that on. What you're trying not to do is capture air between here and there, so I'll just like score it a lot. So you can take some water, put the water on there. And then you're just going to push it on. And it looks a little funny right now, but that's okay because we're just going to push it into place. And if you don't like it, you can always take it off and try it again. So there's a little air pocket right in there. So the air could like escape from there, so that's fine, but you could also potentially close in a little air pocket, so I'll just push it down like a bit. It's not going to explode per se, it would just like make the stem come off. Okay, so then you have to decide if you're gonna like cut it open or not. But we're gonna cut this one open. And so we can just make like a little top for it. Kind of like this one. This one has like a little bit bigger of a top. So you can take your knife, and then if you can get it in at an angle, then that will be good, because then you can imagine it'll sort of sit. I'll show you. So if you can get it in at an angle, let's see. When you're cutting it, then you can just kind of use gravity to help the two parts. They'll sort of like sit there automatically. It's like carving a pumpkin too, when you cut the lid. So you can just like draw a line on there. If you want to make it like jagged, you can do that too. If you have pumpkin carving tools, there's probably a better one in there than just your regular kitchen knife. So I'll go with that. And then I'm just gonna carve in at an angle. My pumpkin's still really soft, so it's kind of like trying to squish in, but it makes it easier to cut. So you just have to balance the two between having it too soft where it's impossible to work with, and then too hard where it's impossible to cut. There we go. Okay. So it's a little rough looking, but don't worry about it. It's gonna go right in there. And you can see we sort of, by cutting at an angle, you kind of make this ledge that it can sit on. And we can give it more of a ledge later, but then what I like to do is you can put your top aside, and then what I've been wanting to do is like pop out this bottom. So there's the seam from when we put the two halves together, right in there. So I can just go in and kind of smooth those together. And you don't want to mess with the top too much because you still want it to fit. But if you want to try to, like, this is going to be a little too small for a tea light, so you can try to kind of like make it bigger by pushing in the fat parts. I'm just like rubbing my finger on the inside of it. Just taking my finger on the inside and just kind of pushing out. Okay, so I put the lid back in and it's getting there, but it's still like not quite pretty. So what we're gonna do is kind of smooth these together, but so it doesn't get stuck, we're gonna put a little oil on it. And so before you do that, you can kind of, like, it's kind of funky in there, so you can sort of smooth that out with your fingers. And then this is also where if it got cut weird, or if you just can't figure out which way your pumpkin lid is supposed to go, which is me like every day, there we go. You can add a little coil on the inside. So if it's falling in, we'll just get like a little extra clay. And you don't need much. We're just gonna make this into like pretty thin. And then you can just kind of take it and put it where it needs support to make it more of a shelf. So that's in there, but then what I want to do is get behind it and kind of smooth the underside to make sure it's like really stuck. And this is just because my clay is soft. If it was starting to dry, I would probably have to like slip and score it and stuff, but I'm a lazy hand builder, so if I can do things like this, then I definitely do. Makes the hole a little smaller, but it gives you more to rest on. Alright, so it doesn't fall in. Okay, so then what we can do is take some cooking oil, it doesn't matter, like canola, vegetable, whatever you have, and then we're just gonna put it on here so we can put some pressure on it, but it's not gonna get stuck. Okay, so then you can put your lid in. And now you can kind of take this and sort of make these seams nicer and make sense. So then it's looking a lot more smooth. You should just be able to kind of rock this and take it out. And then later, if you want, you can go in and make this like thinner. I would wait till it's like a little more leather hard so you're not like messing up the shape and stuff. But you just scoop it out like literally like you're scooping a piece of fruit. Alright, so then that guy is ready to just kind of sit and dry. And you can keep smoothing and do whatever you like. If you want to put some like, you know, finer lines on it, you can do that too.